Okay, so it is my immense pleasure to introduce Rob Bentley, CEO of Global Strategic Advisory at Guy Carpenter, and Sherry Thomas, Managing Director at Guy Carpenter. Rob and Sherry collectively have over 50 years of experience in risk management and reinsurance brokerage. Under the hood, their business involves applying a multitude of complex mathematical models to evaluate the risk and financial impact of all kinds of catastrophic events. This is spread across hundreds of thousands of locations around the world. Put simply, they help insurance companies decide how much of their risk they want to outsource to other insurers. In today's technology-driven world, every business of this scale must work with tech vendors to achieve its objectives. With a myriad of vendors out there, I can only imagine how difficult it is to choose who to work with. Rob and Sherry will share their story, highlighting what is crucial to having a real connection with your vendor. Welcome both. The stage is yours.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon and early evening to everybody, and thank you very much to our friends at Astea for giving us the opportunity to participate in your conference. My name is Rob Bentley. I am the CEO of Guy Carpenter's strategic advisory business. Guy Carpenter is a reinsurance broker, a business you likely never knew existed. Simply, we're a company of 3,200 colleagues, and we provide strategic advice to insurance companies on how to develop, then execute their growth strategies. In concert with our advice, we arrange financial transactions between counterparties to help our clients execute their strategies. We are the world's largest intermediary in terms of clients and transaction volume, placing over 50 billion of annual premiums into global markets. The global group I have the honor of leading sits at the center of our business flows. The team of 500 colleagues provides the analytic foundation for our advice and our transactions. It's a special group of colleagues. We've got folks that have deep scientific knowledge, financial experience, actuarial and natural peril modeling skills. We're joined by coders and software developers who use a collection of third-party and some homegrown applications to develop a statistical representation of the clients in question and the composition of their risk. It's work that has evolved significantly over the past 20 years, and technology has played a key role in it. As important as driving the cadence of the firm's analytic heart, the entire team is involved in a once-in-a-generation replatforming of our workflows and a tool refresh. So we are literally replacing the wings and engines on the airplane while we are flying around the world. It's a project that we call Modernization. It's now in its fourth year of a planned 6-year course, and Sherry Thomas is leading this global effort for us. Quite frankly, it's a high-stakes, business-essential, client-sensitive transformation that's happening to us on a global basis with a significant reputational-related risk in us managing the change management exercise well, because it faces our clients. And Astea is an essential partner and collaborator. I have known Ludmil, who is the president of Astea, since 2008. And I've been lucky enough to visit Sofia and spend time with Ludmil and some of his senior executives in Bulgaria. And I know Sherry has been and spent time with Astea when we started our modernization project together in 2018. And absent the COVID situation that we've all been experiencing, we had planned to spend infinitely more time together face to face. Sherry and I are really honored and delighted to have the opportunity to share our story with you. if I could ask you guys to bring up the tangible and intangible slide. As Sherry explains our journey, I would ask that you keep track of the tangible outcomes as well as the intangible factors that have made us successful. Tangibles are those things that are perceptible, tactile, and measurable. These are the hard KPIs or the deliverables. The intangibles are those things that are immaterial and ethereal. They're the feelings and the orientations and the spirits and the behavior that we bring to our partnership. Together, we have had great tangible outcomes, but it really is the intangibles in our partnership that make it truly special. Sherry, over to you.
Thank you, Rob. So Guy Carpenter is celebrating its 150th year this year. And in anticipation of this milestone, several years ago, our CEO put forward a global strategy to future-proof Guy Carpenter. And in that plan, there was an emphasis on improving the colleague and client experiences, investing in global strategic advisory, the group that Rob leads, and also preparing for the reinsurance industry of the future. And our goals in this program for analytics modernization were pretty simple. We wanted to be able to provide clients and our brokers consistent service and content delivered globally and at scale. We also wanted to enable our data strategy, which means greater sharing of knowledge and data lake integrations. And the third item was simply just to prepare for computational capabilities that would allow us to take advantage of market opportunities on behalf of our clients. So we had a strategic imperative to take a team of hundreds of colleagues on this journey and change of approaches, some of which, as Rob mentioned, had been in place for a generation. And in doing so, this automation that we wanted to create would allow us to spend more time with clients, giving them the advice that our experts have to lend to them, and less time in endless clicking and wait time and repetitive tasks. The program we envisioned resulted in the technology that Astea is helping us build. The analytics portal is a collection of 4 applications, and they're the backbone currently of our catastrophe modeling workflow. We knew that despite the subject matter expertise we have in risk analysis, that we were not well equipped to execute without a capable development partner. And this hint from Rob as to where we would find such a partner is something that I will always consider the key piece of advice I received to help make this program successful. The next slide, please. I promise not to read all of this to you, but I thought it was important to bring up that our project began with an assessment of our colleague pain points across the globe, and those are summarized on this page. These pain points were almost universally felt in every region where we operate, as noted by the U, E, and A notations for the United States, EMEA, and Asia Pacific. We had a lot of difficulty managing the variety of data that we receive, how we prepare that data for analysis, even how we executed models and then reported on the results. And we spent an inordinate amount of time just moving data around so that we could simply use the software that we needed to use. We had 16 different pain points as shown here. And as you can tell from the green boxes thus far, Astea has been involved in helping us solve for 7 of them. This isn't an easy feat for us to pull off globally. We have over 200 natural catastrophe modeling professionals across our offices serving more than 600 customers. There are many regional nuances in insurance. And this work our colleagues do, as Rob said, is business critical. Astea works, though, in the most agile fashion I've ever seen. The development teams want to be on user calls and hear directly from the users. That helps our change management. The users, by having that direct communication with our development partner, know that they're being heard and that their feedback is important to us. And hearing it firsthand then also gives them a better opportunity to speak to their own colleagues about the changes that are coming, and they're able to better support the features and enhancements that are taking place in our applications as those features are introduced. Next slide. So what have we learned together? And I've summarized just a few things here. We've learned a lot of things together, way too many to put on this slide. But throughout our experiences, we've worked with nimble and capable partners in Astea who could teach us and challenge us to be better. not only in the art of the possible, but teach us why what we think that we want could be improved by a different approach. Rob often likes to talk about giving context. And if we ask a question, we want to tell the team why we're asking the question. And in reverse, we've asked our development partners to challenge us, to recommend what would be beneficial for us because the team knows what we want and why, and they may have better ideas for how to get there. They also understand when they ask us as well about our longer term plans. They think beyond the here and now. In terms of business impact, we've won additional business and improved our service level agreements with clients by the work that we've done in this program. One of our clients is now an Astea client because they wanted to replicate some of the capabilities that we had, and I was absolutely thrilled to offer my recommendation. Another of our colleagues even said the analytics portal saved her life, and I hope she was meeting her work-life balance. But it certainly is one of the greatest accomplishments that I felt like I've been a part of in my career by making such an impact with my colleagues. And when we've had difficulties in technology or unexplained service interruptions, debates about database approaches and how to use those, our development teams have been patient with us. They've been understanding of some of the technology constraints that we have as part of a big global company, and they've gone out of their way to help us. We've gotten to know each other a little bit, and I think our teams genuinely like and respect one another. Astea has absolutely earned our trust to an extent I've never seen with any other business partner. The next slide, please. So we're going to open things up for Q&A in just a few minutes, but I wanted to share a few pictures from the limited times our teams have been together in person. I think, everybody's had situations in COVID where you've needed to do things virtually that you might otherwise have been in person for. And we've probably been on 1,000 Zoom calls together with our Astea teams the last 4 years, and that's no exaggeration. I do wish I had more pictures to share. There's been very few times that we've actually been in the same room. In October 2018, we made a trip to Prague, Munich, and London to speak with our colleagues about their requirements for the analytics portal. And at that time, we were about to release our model execution application and preparing to gear up for our database management web app. And our first visit was in Prague, and the night before we met with our lead developer at a restaurant that he had read about. It was a unique place, but a very good beginning for us to first meet our development team. And the picture below that was from our London visit on the far bottom left. One of our colleagues is pictured in this one. She leads work with a very large French insurer. She's a great cheerleader for our applications and the work that we've been doing together the last several years. And she was part of a team at Guy Carpenter that in 2017 had an extraordinarily hard time meeting deadlines that were required of her for a positively enormous amount of deliverables. And her team was among the first adopters of the web apps that we built together. And for a little humor, the only picture I ended up having from our Munich visit was a picture of a beer. So we certainly consumed a bit of beer on these trips as well. But and lastly, the upper right, this team is a very special team. It's part of a team that is the future of reinsurance that we talked about. We have a web app that helps us do some things that have never been done before in Guy Carpenter. And through the work that this team had at a workshop, we wanted to snap a picture. I don't think we got quite everybody, but pretty close. And that one is a very special one to us. So clearly I wasn't great about taking pictures the few times that we had been together, but we think that this relationship that we have between our development teams and not only my team, but the way that our colleagues globally have gotten to know the Astea teams too is really special. We think that we have a lot of work to do still. We had our 4th web app go live just yesterday, and we're very proud of that. And so certainly look forward to what the future brings. Rob, back to you.
Thank you, Sherry. It's great to see those photographs. And I think what you bring forward is a mix of two things. I don't want anyone as they hear this story to misunderstand how much hard work goes into what's happening, how much planning, how many iterations, and how disciplined both sides are in terms of the deliverables and milestones and looking further down the roadmap. And then the implementation aspects of this with an organization of our size, with the complexity, the engagement as a partner with Astea and our teams in getting to those outcomes. At the heart of it sits just a phenomenal capability to learn and to execute. And there's an open mindset from both organizations in terms of engaging in that learning, and the time together and the time spent together reinforces that. You know what I've been at this business for 35 years and working in innovation and technical development and business transformations. And Sherry's spot on when she says that we have a special relationship with Astea. It is a relationship unlike any other that I've experienced. In my mind, it starts at the top, and it starts with Ludmil. And thank you, Ludmil. You know, the leaders in the culture of Astea have this desire to be engaged with meaningful and important work. And there are just these tremendous intangibles that flow from Ludmil and Trifon, who's Astea's CTO and co-COO. You know, as we prepared for today, we actually asked both the Guy Carpenter and the Astea team members to call out and rank the intangibles in our partnership. Those intangibles receiving the largest number of votes show up as the largest words. The Astea orientation can be found in the word cloud at the left side of the slide, and the Guy Carpenter orientation on the right-hand side. As you have a look at what each team values in the other, I want to leave you with these two thoughts. The first is to thank you, Ludmil, and you, Trifon, for the culture you have built. It's a quote from Puneet Ranin, who is the CEO of Deloitte. Puneet says, leaders who understand the importance of the intangible elements contributing to a workplace culture become sensitive to what makes their organization truly special. That is how they define core values and beliefs that are unique, simple, leader-led, repetitive, and embedded, transforming themselves from good to exceptional. And we have experienced every aspect of that in our work with Astea. The second is a quote from W. Clement Stone, who was one of the most successful insurance entrepreneurs of the 20th century. It's for all of those at Guy Carpenter and Astea who have built this very special partnership. And I extend it to all of you in the hope that you too will bring it forward. Your most precious and valued possessions are your greatest powers. They are invisible and intangible. No one can take them. You and you alone can give them. You will receive abundance for your giving. So I think we're ready for Q&A. We gave you a fairly high-level run through what we've done together. We can drop into a bit more detail if people are interested. Hopefully, we've given you a sense that from our perspective, the success is as much in the tangibles as it is in the intangibles. And we greatly value both in our relationship with Astea. Ludmil, Trifon, if you want to join us for the Q&A, I think we can go to it.
Rob, forgive me. This is Ludmil. I wasn't planning on saying anything, but first of all, I wanted to thank you and Sherry for the tremendous presentation and also kind words. I've been working in Bulgaria with Bulgarian mathematicians, engineers, developers since 1994 or 95. And over that long period of time, and I've worked with a number of different companies, I've come to be quite spoiled. I almost expect, I've come to expect outstanding results. So what's consumed most of my interest in terms of developing in Bulgaria is really the intangibles that you discussed today. And the respect that exists between a vendor and a client who operate as partners, the curiosity of our developers in wanting to delve deeply into an entirely new industry to understand how it functions, active as opposed to passive participation in meeting the client's objectives. So really having an ownership attitude over what's being developed. So all of these are entirely human qualities, the intangibles that make a relationship successful. And that's what's always fascinated me the most, particularly in an environment where developers have generally worked at such a high level and been consistently good at what they do. But it's really these qualities, the intangible qualities, that make relationships truly successful. So with that, I'll be quiet. But thank you again for your presentation and comments.
Yep. Thank you both from our studio in Sofia about this presentation. We have a few questions here. First of all, when you start working with a new vendor, how do you evaluate whether these intangibles exist? And how do you make the judgment whether that's the right partner for you or not?
Sherry, I think we can both have a go at this.
Okay.
Why don't I give you the first go? You spent quite a bit of time at the onset, exploring different capabilities in different organizations. So you may want to share your personal feelings and impressions.
Yeah, I mean, I think you know it when you first start working with someone, and you know the connection that you're going to have with that vendor by the questions they ask. Are they genuinely interested in your business? Do they want to learn what the business is? If the questions veer towards strictly something that's almost like a waterfall approach, just tell me what you want and we'll go off and build it, that would be a clear hint to me that may not be the right partner for us in these cases. The reason for us that we needed a very capable development partner, we just don't have that kind of expertise in-house. And so I don't know what I don't know. And I would need someone who's curious enough to ask the good questions and makes me think then about the things that I hadn't even thought of yet, and for us to then come to sort of some solutions together. I think that would be a major one for me, a genuine interest and curiosity in what we do. Without that, I think that you can carry out tasks, but you can't really build something that we were looking to build with just carrying out tasks. During these, and again, probably 1,000 Zoom calls across building 4 different applications that we've built with Astea. And we see our development team's faces on Zoom calls. Sometimes we have our cameras off every now and then, unless we're going to speak, but they show us, they show up. We can read their expressions. We know when they're understanding, and we'll be talking to them. We know if we're connecting, if we're communicating well with one another. And sometimes, you need to spend more time in certain aspects, but they show up in all sorts of ways, and, super professional. I've had development leads be on calls with some of my colleagues in Tokyo, where it's from Sofia to Tokyo is a better time zone situation than the one I have. And I'm totally open to them being I trust them to be on a call with a user to work out a problem or hear about a feature enhancement that is needed. So I guess, going well above and beyond when that trust is built, and that continues to build even greater relationships. I think those would be the major pieces for me. Rob?
Yeah, I would. My experience has been one of successes and failures, right? And you learn from both. One of the challenges that I think we all run into, we run into this when we do business with our clients, is that if the selection process, if the initial exploration process is driven by procurement as opposed to being driven by the business, it makes it very, very hard to get off to the right start and to actually make decisions based on a balance of tangibles and intangibles. If procurement is driving the process, it's typically around capabilities and price, right? And then the business people are left to build a relationship or sort out a relationship with a developer. And in some aspects, because you're missing the intangibles, because you're missing the desire to understand the business deeply, to make the personal sacrifices of sharing and being vulnerable and exploring the concept and co-creating together. If you're making decisions that are based on price and capabilities, you wind up in programs that have a high probability of failing. And within Guy Carpenter, we've been involved in programs where, because of the lack of intangibles, the communication breaks down, the quality breaks down, the solution thinking breaks down, the quality breaks down, and neither side has a good experience. Right now, we just happen to be in a situation where, because of the uniqueness of what we were looking to do, and because it was so critically important to us, in the case with Astea, we had the ability to reach for a partner who we felt we could find the intangibles in. And Ludmilla and I have known each other, and we've done some things together in the past, and there was a foundation of trust. But I do feel that it's super important that you represent and where you're not only your capabilities but your intangibles very openly. And Sherry did a good job of explaining, how you can engage those right up front.
Okay, thanks for the detailed explanation. This, I think, really brings us into a question we got from our online audience. Martin Ruskov asked, thanks for a very personal and engaging start. I'm happy you brought the talk back to the intangibles. You saved me the embarrassment of saying that I was stuck at the start of the talk. In a word, obsessed about the bottom line and profit optimization, how do you manage to sell to clients any effort put into reinforcing the intangible?
Sherry, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first? Or Ludmilla too. Feel free, because you're on this ride with us. But Sherry?
Can I ask you to repeat the question again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, in a world obsessed about the bottom line and profit optimization, how do you manage to sell to clients any effort put into reinforcing the intangibles?
I actually think and we've seen projects happening Guy Carpenter where they didn't have the benefit of a partner like we have in Astea. And I actually think it's far more expensive in that case, because if you fail and you have to start over and potentially start over not once, but maybe twice, that gets really expensive. And a lot of painful questions get asked about that too. So I actually think that it's not, even if the path was longer, even if, put price aside, I think having the partner that you feel like really gets you and understands and shows interest in your project is a much better situation than having potentially, as an example, a really big development firm, really huge consulting firm that may have thousands of other development projects going on. I think, we've seen some of those kinds of things in Guy Carpenter, not necessarily within GSA, but I think that gets really expensive because it takes even longer to get to the outcome you're looking for if people aren't really engaged and they don't know what you're asking for, why you're asking for it, if user representation isn't really very good. I think that's, time is money too. So I think that gets really expensive.
Yeah, we're in a people to people business at Guy Carpenter. Although we do business corporate to corporate, for some interesting happenstance, our business is still very driven by personal relationships. And we have those personal relationships deeply integrated within the clients we do business with. We're favored with a revenue retention rate that's over 90%. So we renew our business every year with our clients. And the wonderful aspect of that is that we get to know our clients deeply, right? And our clients value in us both the tangibles and the intangibles. They rely on us for critical business advice and exquisite execution and very large financial transactions that are at the heart of their reputations. But they also rely on the trust and the advice that we give to them. So, as an organization, we're sort of built that way to orient to our clients. So when we have relationships like we have with Astea, and we build truly transformational capabilities together that change the lives of our colleagues are able to talk with our clients about the innovations and the solutions that we are bringing together. And we had a situation where one of our most significant clients in Europe is facing, in many ways, the same kinds of challenges in the small that we're facing at Guy Carpenter in the large. And we were talking with them about the capabilities that we had co-created with Astea and Guy Carpenter as solving our problem, which is similar to their problem. And I'm going to ask Sherry to pick up the story, or maybe Ludmil or Trifon from there. It led to us doing something very unique together. There was IP that was created, but because of our partnership, we were pretty creative in the way that we thought about using that IP together to help a mutual client, a client of ours that became a client of Astea. So I think it's those intangibles, right, playing themselves through an organization that actually manifest in new opportunities for both of us. But I don't know, Sherry or Ludmil, if you want to comment on that situation.
I'm happy to just say a couple things. The way that it initially transpired was we conduct a lot of analysis on behalf of this insurer, a very significant client of ours, and they noticed a difference in our delivery time, and they noticed a difference in the team. And they said, well, what's going on? There's something different, basically is what how the conversation went. And they said, we've got this new solution and we can run all types of analyses much quicker than we could before. And then they wanted to see it. And so they asked, well, can we show it to them? Sure. We can, we don't want other client names being, appearing on the screen, but we could show for that particular client what it is that we're talking about. And they became interested. And then they were like, well, we've been trying to do this, on our own, and they hadn't been successful in doing it. And so we got to a solution basically where we, agreed to some reuse of code that had been from our partnership together, what we used that was a good fit for this client. And I think there's actually some additional things that they needed from Astea as well. And they have a separate, arrangement, and they do their thing now, but they got the benefit of the path that we had forged together between Guy Carpenter and Astea. And, out of that, we get a happy client, and Astea, receives another client too. So they were very happy for that recommendation. And again, they had already tried and hadn't been able to do what it is that we were able to bring forward.
Okay, I think we have time for just one more question, again coming from our online viewers. Marina asks, you said that you have almost a generation of colleagues used to doing work in a more traditional way. What are some specific challenges in the transition for these people to your new modernization platform? And what is a vendor's place in that effort?
Yeah, thanks for the question. It is true that people have been doing things the same way for a generation. When I first started in this business in 1997, it's pretty much was done 3 years ago exactly the same way. We trained people exactly the same way. And what the change management challenge for us is actually more significant for those folks who've been in the industry a long time, who grew up doing things a very particular way, and that is the way that is comfortable for them. Our colleagues who are coming right out of college immediately take to the new way of doing things that we've brought forward. But in the case of the people who have a lot more experience, it's again, helping them understand that it's okay to trust in these things, that we're going to keep them up to date. Hearing from them too, just spending some time with them about, is there something in particular that you would be looking for? Helping them gain trust in the application itself is a big thing. Typically, if someone is doing well in their career and they know how to get something done, to switch course is a risk for them. And so we have to try to help them understand and eliminate as much of that risk as possible, and show them the benefits they get by doing things in a more contemporary way, so that they can actually spend time on things that they are really good at with clients, and alleviate some of the pressure from these other sort of challenges with their time. So it's an ongoing process. I wouldn't say that we snap our fingers, introduce a web application, and all of a sudden 30 years of, more than a generation of colleagues basically, end up adopting at the same rate. One of the early books that Rob recommended was Crossing the Chasm. And so we look at that with our web applications. Have we gotten to a peak point where we can say we've crossed that chasm and now there's such a groundswell that everybody else is going to come and follow along? And that's what we're after on every application, basically. But certainly for the colleagues who've been doing things the same way 20 years, it does take some time to bring them along.
I would just add that Sherry and her team have relied heavily on the Astea team through our change management journey. And it shows up in a couple of distinct ways. The first one is like with any change, there's one way to do it, which is the big bang. It's here, everybody changes. The other way to do it is more programmatically and build trust and capability and a positive experience cumulatively over a period of time. And we chose to do this cumulatively over a period of time. So it starts with quality deliverables, right? On time quality deliverables that actually do what you tell people they're going to do. And the experience that they have is one of affirmation. It works, right? And Astea played an enormous role in that process of getting to capabilities that we were prepared to release to our community, and then supporting us and our communities. We adjusted in taking on that piece of capability, and then moving to the next one. So we were on this journey of building consistent confidence, right? So that user community was served as the reference community for the rest of the folks on the journey. But the adaptability and the flexibility and the responsiveness of Astea in all of those parts to make sure that when we were releasing something or working with something, if we had to adjust or we had to correct, we were able to do it. And to the credit of the Astea team, they were as anxious as we were about making sure that experience for our colleagues was a tremendous experience. We've had a lot of failures at Guy Carpenter of change management, and we've learned a lot from it. But I don't think we've had a partner, in my experience, that has been sweating the entire process with us as much as Trifon and the team at Astea do.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm really enjoying this talk, but we need to move on to our next speaker. So what I typically do at this stage is ask all of our speakers a single question, and it is to finish a sentence. And the sentence is, software development is, what is it for you in a single sentence?
The lifeblood of transformation.
I was going to say life-changing.
Okay, thank you both for this. It was an absolute pleasure. And to our viewers, we will be back in a few minutes with our next speaker.